Hey everyone, Samantha Hildebrandt here with Type 1 Tribe. Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about prepping for grilling season, barbecue season, cookout season, and how to get prepared as a Type 1 diabetic. So I absolutely love grilling season, and by the way, I am outside, so it might be loud. I live in the city, the wind is blowing because I'm on the roof, but I do love cookout season. It is literally my favorite. It's warm, it's sunny, you're hanging with friends, you're having good food, you're having good beverages. It's always just a blast. But cookout season, in my opinion, can actually get pretty challenging as a Type 1 diabetic, and it's important to just prep for these cookout parties in advance and really understand how you can control your blood sugar during these moments. So I wanted to go over some popular cookout foods and how you can bolus for these and how you can make sure to make your meal more blood sugar balanced when you're at these events, because there tends to be a lot of snacks and appetizer type of food at cookouts, and so I think that can get really challenging because you might be eating these snacks before the main meal, which then you have to, in my opinion, do two separate carb countings, and it can get complicated. So some typical things that you will see at a cookout are sausages, brats, hot dogs, burgers, things like that, right? And don't get me wrong, I absolutely love sausages. I tend to eat a brat or a sausage over a burger usually at cookouts. Why? I don't really know. I'm also gluten-free though, so sometimes I'll just eat the brat by itself with no bread, because a lot of times the person just doesn't have gluten-free buns or whatever on hand. Not really for blood sugar purposes, but sometimes that does work in our favor if you do avoid the bun. Now, of course, you do not have to avoid the bun. I just think, since I'm gluten-free and a lot of times I would have to bring my own bread and buns, I'm not going to do that. So I'll just eat the brat by itself with some ketchup. However, brats have a lot of fat in it, which can delay a protein spike. And so you have to be careful with that. And then, of course, there's always mac and cheese. So mac and cheese is another really difficult one for someone who's gluten-free. A lot of times the mac and cheese is not gluten-free, so it's hard for me. However, the other hard part, of course, is there's a lot of carbs in mac and cheese and little protein. Yes, there is protein in the cheese, but usually the carbs kind of overtake the protein that's in mac and cheese. So if you are hosting the cookout, I actually recommend this brand, Kaizen. It's very, very blood sugar friendly, and it's actually pretty good. So this is not sponsored, by the way. I just actually really like them. Mac and cheese has 24 grams of protein in it, which is amazing. And so get something like this. If you are the one in charge of mac and cheese, it's also gluten-free. So, you'll really just be helping everybody with dietary issues. It is real cheese though, I believe. Check it out. And then, of course, there are always chips at a barbecue cookout, and chips are my favorite snack. Of course they are. But chips are not the best blood sugar friendly snack. I guess it really just depends on which chips you're eating, but they tend to not be. And chips are very highly processed, and so they're not going to be the best on our blood sugars. They tend to usually have very little protein, very little fiber, and just a lot of carbs. Chips also, serving size is small, and I tend to eat 5 servings of chips, because one serving of chips is 3 individual chips. So naturally, people put some on their plate, and it probably is more than one serving. So there's going to be things like this. The Good Crisp Company is an amazing option. They don't have a lot of protein in these chips, but you can pair it with a dip. And of course, there will be dips at a cookout. Of course, there will probably be guacamole, which would be a great option. If there's a bean dip, that's another really good protein option that can help you manage your blood sugar. These are made out of potatoes. They also have, these are crisps, but they also have the Ruffles type of chip, the crinkle cut type of chip, And then, of course, there's tortilla chips, which are always at Cookouts as well. I personally love tortilla chips, so I try to find ones that have more protein in them. Something that's like bean-based. They have Benito's is a really good brand. They're bean-based tortilla chips, so there's going to be naturally more protein and fiber in those chips. And then when it comes to making your actual plate, like, okay, you've been snacking, you've been really thinking about including protein and fiber in your snacks. Like I would avoid, just eating chips by themselves. Maybe definitely put some dip on them, put some cheese on them. Think about how you can make it the most blood sugar friendly, just so then you don't have to worry about managing your blood sugar at a cookout, because nobody wants to do that. But then when it comes to your main plate, same thing is look at your plate and be like, okay, how can I make this the most blood sugar friendly? How can I include protein, fat, carbs, fiber, all of the things that will help manage your blood sugar? Of course, you want to have some sort of meat, right? Or protein. And so that can be a sausage, that could be a burger, that can be chicken if there's chicken there, like a chicken skewer or something. Always want to include protein, because protein is magical when it comes to blood sugar management. So always add protein. And then the next is, I always say add some greens, because greens do provide a nice blood sugar friendly balance when it comes to a meal. And so if there's a salad, make sure to include the salad. I would be careful with the salad dressing. Sometimes those do have a lot of sugar and carbs in it, so you just want to be careful. You don't necessarily have to avoid it, but just maybe ask, like, what type of dressing is this before you put it on, because I've done that before where I'll just like put on the dressing and then I realize, oh no, there was quite a lot of sugar in that dressing, and then my blood sugar goes up. So it's just something that you may want to ask the host, what type of salad dressing is this? And then, sometimes there's beans at a cookout. Beans are such a good fiber option, protein and fiber. And so definitely add beans to your plate. That will totally help with that blood sugar spike that you would have at a cookout that you don't want to worry about. And let's see what else. Oh, dessert. Of course, there's going to be dessert at a cookout. I highly recommend eating your dessert with your meal. So rather than like eating your meal, waiting 2 hours, and then having a dessert, I recommend putting it on your plate with your main meal. So you have, that source of protein, you have the source of greens, and you have the source of fiber. Then you're like, okay, I'm gonna then eat my dessert that is probably high carb and high sugar, but you can bolus for that with your entire meal, which will help that blood sugar spike. If you wait, that's like another carb counting thing you have to do. And then that's probably not gonna have protein in it. And so you're probably going to spike to some extent, of course. Like, you can obviously plan that out a little bit better, but usually, if you just eat a cookie, like, there's gonna be a lot of sugar and carbs in that, and it's just harder to manage. So if you wanna make it easier on yourself, eat your dessert with your main meal at a cookout. But truly, I think the hardest part of a cookout or attending a cookout, even having just a cookout with like your own immediate family, is that, at least at my cookouts, we tend to snack a lot before, like we're eating the chips and whatever else is there for snack. And that's when it gets hard, because you're not necessarily eating just at once, you're kind of eating over like a few hours, and that is the hardest part of a cookout and managing your blood sugar. So you can take, individual units of insulin before you eat, wait the 15 minutes or whatever it is, so you don't have that spike, or just eat everything at once. If you have good self-control, which I do not, but if you do, you could try to just eat a meal at one time, and then you don't have to worry about, bolusing several times over this cookout period. So anyway, I hope this helped you plan out cookout season, barbecue season, time with friends and family. Hopefully it will help you manage your blood sugar less, so you can just have fun with everyone this summer. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and I'll see you all next week. Bye. If you are looking for more blood sugar friendly tips, just like the ones I went over on today's video, make sure to check out my ebook listed below. It is the coolest ebook for newly diagnosed type 1 diabetics or someone just looking to lower their A1C. We cover all things blood sugar, so you're going to want to check it out.